Hi, the next thing we're looking at is fonts. Now in HTML, in the olden days, there used to be a font tag, and that font tag was very easy to use, a font within angular brackets, and that was littered throughout your HTML. And what happened later on in XHTML and then in HTML5 was that that font tag was disallowed, and CSS emerged as the elegant way to specify the font type. So here you have an example where there is a CSS style specified, and for heading 1 the font family is Comic Sans MS, and then for paragraph again the options for the font family are specified over here. And these are examples of fonts in different operating systems, and what these fonts are called. Like for instance, the Arial font is called Arial in Windows and Mac, and it has a different name or a different equivalent in Linux. And these are examples similarly for different types of fonts and different operating systems. So the limitations of fonts is that a lot of times when you specify a font when you're trying to create a web page, and you assume that this is exactly how the user on the other end is going to see the fonts, that's not what it happens in a lot of systems currently. So the font resources are installed in each operating system, and they are not downloaded with the rest of the page. So if you want to ensure that your font looks the same in different computers, then you can create images of your font using GIMP or Photoshop and have those images instead, so they will look exactly the same when they download on the user's computer, rather than simply specifying a font type. And the other things to do with font sizes. So font sizes again is simply a suggestion. So you can have here this is font sizes specified as small, and the other options are to do it as a point, as pixels, and as a percentage, and with the EM. And this is like extra small, 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 and so on. So these are different ways of specifying the font. So there are some ground rules. One is that don't change sizes without a good reason. So most of the time the browser default sizes are perfectly fine, but there may be times when you want to specify the font a little more. And define an overall size for the page. So if you want to define a font size for the entire page, do it within the body tag. And you might want your links a little larger than ordinary text, for example, and you can do this by applying the font size attribute to any element, and you can use relative measurements. Of course, when you're doing responsive web design, when you're trying to specify a page to look different in different devices, so in that case, when you for a seamless transition to two devices, you might want to specify your fonts in percentages rather than as fixed sizes. And there are other font characteristics. You can specify the font style to be italics, and the font weight to be bold, and text declaration as underlined and text align center. Now in the olden days, again, the I tag and the B tag in HTML were used very widely for specifying italics and bold. Now, even though the HTML5 has allowed the use of I and B tags, it is more to do with the semantics and the meaning rather than in the exact way for specifying italics and bold as it used to be in the past. So here you can specify the font as bold, italic, 150%, and cursive, and this font type. So the order here is based on the font style, the font variant, font weight, font size, and font family. And here the style can be italic, normal, or oblique. And for font weight, normally simply indicate bold in the font weight rule, and you can also have a numeric value from 100, which is exceptionally light, to 900, which is a dark bold. And there are other rules on the syntax as well. So for instance, there are rules for superscripts and subscripts which are managed through different HTML tags. And sometimes you might want to give one element more than one style. And you can do this by naming each element and using the name in the CSS style sheet. So here you have this is where you're specifying a hash attribution over here, or a hash or a pound sign. So this followed by the element's ID in CSS to specify that you're not talking about a tag type anymore, but a specific element. So it's not a tag type like heading1, h1, or body or something, but you're talking about a specific element over here. And for that specific element, you are specifying the rule as 80% monospace text aligned right. And here the IDs need to be unique in the HTML, so you can't repeat the same ID on one page. So this technique is best when you have a style you want to apply to only one element on the page, and it doesn't matter what element that is. It could be a heading 1, a paragraph, or a table cell, or anything else. Okay, so let's look at one more CSS example. Now these examples have been provided to you, so you can try these out on your own as well, and you can do a right click and look at the page source. Okay. So here this is on quotations. So as you can see here, here there is a rule specified for an element's ID. So it says when the ID is a quote, then this should be the font. It should be bold, italic, 130% garam, and so on. It should be aligned in the center. And if it is an attribution, then it should be aligned right. And again, these are the rules. So this part was your CSS, and now we're going on to the HTML part. And here it says literature quote of the day, and then paragraph how to tell somebody's quote, somebody of the class away or something, and then you have your quote. So this is your quote, and then you have the attribution. So for this particular case, and this is the quote. Okay, and then you have your attribution specified on the right over here as William Shakespeare, and these are different rules specified for the quote and the attribution in your HTML, in your CSS, and that works well. And these are unique. Only one instance of each of these IDs are there in your HTML.